So I think this chapter really puts into perspective what is coming our way, what the new world of Jujutsu Kaisen is currently building upon, and what we needed was all of this information. There was a lot of it here. Stuff that completely recontextualizes our perspective on Kaisen's story from its beginning, but also our foresight, what we see for the future of Kaisen, and how that is now being shaped and molded in a very specific type of way. But it also opens up the grand scheme of things. It opens up Japan a little bit further to account for global situations in terms of not only politics but powerhouses, in terms of cursed energy and its usage and how it's connected to humanity and society specifically. It's a very interesting thing that I didn't think Akutami would do so soon, but now is easily one of the best times to do it, and it's very prominent and powerful. So as of right now, there is two distinctive sides within Kaizen relating to cursed energy and humanity, humans, sorcerers, cursed spirits combined. On one hand, you have Yuki and her fantasy or her ideal proposition that lies in breaking away from cursed energy. She reiterates that humans will always evolve a step above it, which actually makes me really curious because we have somewhat already seen an example of this regarding Toji. Toji is a human that has no cursed energy whatsoever, and we know just how powerful he truly was. Now, that's not to say that every human would become very similar to Toji, but you can see that Toji without cursed energy, rivaling Gojo, someone that is considered the most powerful sorcerer to exist, it reinforces Yuki's idea that breaking away from cursed energy is a prominent thing. But obviously Gento or Noritoshi, or should I say Brain now, doesn't actually want this. He wants to optimize cursed energy and bring it up and make it flourish into a incredible amount of different things, basically escalating and raising the power higher than we have ever seen it before. And a very small example of this is Mahito, funny enough, someone that has developed extremely well throughout Jujutsu Kaisen's narrative, but more recently has taken that next step within evolution. Within the Yuji and Mahito fight, he completely morphed and changed his appearance, and it is the next step into obtaining a higher power. The fact that this completely recontextualized Mahito's growth is impressive in itself. It makes you somewhat rethink Mahito's journey as well as Toji's appearances within the story, and how they both play such a very vital role into powering both sides of this perspective. Do we break away from cursed energy and let humanity evolve one step further, or would you rather optimize cursed energy and to explore into it further and unravel all of its mysteries? I love how both of these understandings are backed by the effect of the world, as we find out that Japan is somewhat of a monopoly when it comes to cursed energy and sorcerers, as because of the very specific Tengen barrier that takes place over Japan, that in itself retroactively optimizes cursed energy. So sorcerers and cursed spirits aren't as frequent across the globe. Now, it doesn't mean they don't exist. There definitely are some out there, but I assume just based off Yuki's words, they're not as frequent. They're not as massive in power and are somewhat just laying dormant for the most part. But when it comes to what Yuki doesn't want in terms of optimizing cursed energy, which is what Brain or Noritoshi wants, is she makes the correlation to powerhouses and politics, which something in itself builds a much scarier picture. That if the world starts to optimize cursed energy and accept it, understand it, learn about it, and utilize it, they will 100% weaponize it. Obviously, Noritoshi does not care about this. He doesn't care about peace or war or bloodshed or anything that comes from optimizing cursed energy. He has this self-centered desire to understand it himself. He wants to explore the possibilities of humans, sorcerers, and cursed spirits alike. He wants to mingle and experiment. So when you have someone that does not care about the outcomes of his optimization of cursed energy and what those outcomes could potentially be in terms of different nations trying to create their own cursed energy, trying to create their own weapons, their own people, their own army, you have a very serious problem. And the world somewhat becomes absorbed around a layer of cursed energy, which when you think about it globally could be extremely bad. Cursed energy and cursed spirit is directly linked to the negative emotions of humans. If that negative emotion goes into the constant fear of war, another person or another individual very similar to Mahito or nuclear warfare, you're going to create some very massive conflicts that give birth to very powerful cursed spirits, which also retroactively ups the cursed energy usage, and more powerful sorcerers will come into existence, and then you have armies weaponizing these sorcerers to fight different countries. Do you see how all of this is such a domino effect? This is what Yuki wants to stop. This is the picture that she sees and why she wants to to step away from cursed energy. He doesn't want to see the world become like this. Noritoshi wants to fulfill his own fantasies. He does not care about the outcomes or the repercussions for it. All of this is literally within the first 4 to 6 pages. And it's such an extreme but impressive way to completely open up the world and shape your perspective on cursed energy and Jujutsu Kaisen as a whole. I never expected Akutami to do it this way, but they have done a beautiful job with it. These are the ripple effects, and it only continues. It never dwindles down and simmers. It continues further and further until you have global annihilation, until the world somewhat corrupts itself and you have cursed spirits that are almost impossible to deal with. In this sense, however, there is a bit of a problem with Noritoshi trying to do what he wants to do. As much as he is fascinated by all of these different things, turning humans into cursed spirits or sorcerers or whatever it may be, he can't control it in a manufactured method, meaning that he can't force someone to evolve in a way that changes the world. He can give them the keys to unlock the door itself, but they have to ultimately walk through it. They have to somewhat evolve on their own terms. So what he decides to do is manufacture chaos. And chaos is very unpredictable. It's very uncontrollable. But this is the only thing that gets people to evolve in power, in strength, in intelligence, is facing that chaos and adapting to it. This is something he didn't know before, but as of now, in this chapter, he's putting it into motion and allowing chaos to become the ruling factor that will take humans, cursed spirits, and sorcerers to the next level, that will take cursed energy to the next level. The individual that makes all of this possible is, funny enough, Mahito. Mahito was the biggest key to every single thing. Because of Mahito's soul manipulation, being able to tinker with the literal infrastructure and architecture of people's souls, this has given Brain, I should say, the legitimate understanding to basically mess with people however he wants. He can turn humans into sorcerers. He can turn humans into what I am now calling cursed vessels. And just for clarification, the cursed vessel is basically what Yuji is. Someone that inhabits a cursed object inside of their body and has become a sorcerer through that method. Now, Mahito's soul manipulation being used is somewhat only possible because of Yuji, which is the reason why Brain or Noritoshi actually thanks him, because Mahito had to take that next step in evolution. He had to take that massive jump into power, and the only way that he could realistically do that is by facing Yuji in this very climatic and chaotic event. It's because of this that Noritoshi mentions that Mahito cannot grow or evolve while within this curse manipulation form. Basically, what Noritoshi done to him in absorbing him. But directly after this, we see the first individual that is severely affected by this, that is awakening thanks to this curse technique, and it's none other than Megami's sister. This is the only person we actually see, and it makes me very interested in how detailed this technique can be and how it awakens humans to become sorcerers, to channel that cursed energy. And obviously, Megami's sister is part of a very specific and powerful clan, one that has very specific and powerful cursed energy. So I am very curious to see if this technique enables the abilities of what the human could actually connect to and doesn't just give them some sort of pre-existing type of ability, if that makes sense. And I'm pretty sure it doesn't actually work like that, just because I feel we've seen an example of it with Junpei, as even Noritoshi uses Junpei as an example, someone that is not meant to actually be a sorcerer, but is actually given the ability to do so. So we don't know what Megami's sister is. Is she someone similar to Yuji that has a cursed object inside of them, which is now what I'm calling a cursed vessel, or is she someone like Junpei? Regardless, Noritoshi has fiddled with what is stated to be somewhat of 1,000 different people. They're going to fight each other, which is the way Noritoshi wants to learn about these individuals and how he wants them to grow, fighting each other to create that manufactured chaos, that artificial chaos, to allow them to evolve and grow and optimize the cursed energy. He already has things in place to allow this to happen, but it's not going to be from human will, that 1,000 different people are going to come into one area or hunt each other down just because they suddenly feel like it. He seems to have things in place and in play that will push people in certain directions and to artificially enhance once again that chaos. Before this is all somewhat brought to a conclusion, you have basically everyone starting to get back up. You have people ready to completely demolish Noritoshi, and Yuki filling in the blanks for people, that her comrades are taking care of individuals and making sure everyone's okay, and they have every chance possible right now to take out Noritoshi, to capture him or to kill him. Yurume is unfortunately poisoned, which is definitely not life-threatening, but ability to create ice and use cursed energy so massively to such an extent, definitely not going to be a possibility. So the best course of action is obviously retreating. Instead of Noritoshi just dipping out and leaving, someone has a bit of an explanation. Something that is confirmed for us now. Noritoshi goes to say that the cursed objects that he gave humans, that he just awakened, are leftovers from sorcerers that he made contracts with 1,000 years ago. He also goes to reiterate that he didn't just make contract with sorcerers, meaning he also made contracts with cursed spirits, meaning between all of these people that have awakened, these humans that are now either a cursed vessel or a sorcerer, some of them are going to be directly linked with cursed spirits. Some of them are going to be directly linked with extremely powerful sorcerers that existed almost 1,000 years ago. But hold on, Noritoshi isn't 1,000 years old. Noritoshi is 200 years old. So how do you have someone that has made binding contracts with someone that's 1,000 years old? The true mastermind behind all of this, and something that a lot of us were very skeptical on and weren't really sure on how they were going to play it, was Brain. Honestly, that was all people called it. There was Brain, Noritoshi, and Geto, and we didn't know who was in control of who. And I always thought it'd be rather silly to introduce Noritoshi as the big bad villain, but he is being puppeteered by another big bad villain. But I don't actually think that's the case. What I think has happened here is that once again, Akutami has subverted that expectation and changed it up a bit. Noritoshi was first introduced as the most evil sorcerer of all time, but what if that was just actually Brain? What if the Noritoshi originally, the actual person, has never been a thing, and that the reason they're the most evil sorcerer in history is because of Brain taking over their body? That sounds like exactly what has happened. All of the experimentation that is linked with Noritoshi is while Brain was active. It also makes sense why the first time we actually see Noritoshi, he also has the stitches in his head, which I thought at the time was just a reference or a linkage to Geto. A lot of people at that time did actually point out that, hey, Noritoshi's got stitches, maybe he has also been affected very similar to Geto, and it turns out you were right. So the big bad villain isn't Noritoshi. I wouldn't be surprised if Noritoshi is actually innocent. He isn't the most evil person in history. The most evil thing within history is Brain, and this person or thing has somewhat body hopped for thousands of years, or at least 1,000 years, I should say. We don't know who the original body is. We don't know where this Brain comes from. But you know what the most interesting thing about all of this is? If this person can so easily body hop from one individual to another, with what he is doing now, awakening humans and making them become sorcerers and trying to optimize curse energy, you know in the future that what he may be trying to do is create a cursed vessel that is beyond human capabilities, that is beyond the current sorcerer's capabilities, the most strongest and powerful cursed vessel or sorcerer to exist, so he can have that body. I wouldn't be surprised if it is the reason why he was so interested in Yuji to begin with. Yuji is a very interesting individual and how he can harbor one of the most evil and powerful curses to exist. I wouldn't be surprised if Brain wanted that type of body. This leads him to showing off some of the cursed spirits he made a contract with 1,000 years ago, also being rather coy and rubbing in the fact that Gojo is still sealed away. And he also yells out to Sukuna that the golden age of cursed techniques has now begun. A whole new world and a whole new realm has been born. We're going back to the time Sukuna was alive, but in modern era, and I couldn't be more excited to see how Akutami plays upon this. There is so many brilliant things that was done within this chapter. It realistically changes everything. It was masterfully crafted, beautifully handled, and backed with such captivating artwork. Jujutsu Kaisen's story has now changed, and we are in for a very wild and bumpy ride. So with that being said, that is basically it. There was a lot of things within this chapter, so I'd like to know what was some of your favorites. Was it the Geto Noritoshi brain dialogue? Was it the panel work? Was it Yuki and her declaration and understanding of breaking away from cursed energy? There is a lot of amazing things within here, so I'd love to hear your thoughts. But I want to thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Drink plenty of water, and I will see you within the next one. Goodbye.